For the first 6 years of her life, Ren Castellan thought every father in the world disappeared into a wall of light. That was how she remembered him, not as a man who left, but as a man who turned mid-sentence into a screen 40 feet tall. Desmond Castellan was the kind of actor who ran across the tops of moving trains for a living, who jumped from planes without flinching, who could make an entire theater of strangers gasp in the dark. He could do all of that. What he could not do, in the end, was sit at the edge of a bathtub and tell his daughter a bedtime story 2 nights in a row. Ren didn't understand any of this when she was small. She only understood weather. Her father was sunshine when he was home, loud, warm, throwing her so high toward the ceiling that her stomach dropped out from under her, and then for weeks at a time, he was simply gone the way summer goes, without anyone telling you exactly when. The year she turned 6, the weather changed for good. Her mother, Leanne, never spoke badly of him. Not once, not in the immediate chaos of the divorce, and not in the years after, when reporters with long lenses waited outside Ren's elementary school, like patient herons. Leanne had grown up ordinary, a costume designer from Ohio who'd met Desmond on a film set and fallen, she said later, for a man who didn't exist outside of the cameras. By the time she understood that, she had a daughter, a name that made strangers whisper when she gave it at coffee shops, and a marriage built on a foundation she could no longer see clearly. What Leanne did instead of speaking badly of him was leave quietly, decisively, and completely. She packed 2 suitcases and a daughter's stuffed rabbit and moved them 3,000 miles east into a 3rd-floor walk-up above a bakery, where the smell of bread in the mornings became the new smell of safety. She never explained to 6-year-old Ren why the move happened. She only said, "We're going somewhere the air is easier to breathe," and Ren, who didn't know what that meant, breathed it in anyway, and somehow, slowly, it became true. There is a particular kind of grief that has no name because no one expects you to grieve a person who is still alive. Ren learned to live inside that grief without ever calling it by name. She learned it at 8, watching her friends get picked up after dance class by fathers in work boots and rumpled ties, ordinary men, tired men, men who smelled like coffee and car upholstery. She learned it at 10, the year a boy in her class brought in a magazine with her father's face on the cover and asked, with the cheerful cruelty only children have, "Doesn't it feel weird that everyone knows your dad except you?" She learned it most of all on birthdays. Every April for years, she woke up half expecting something. A card, a call, a single line of text. Nothing ever came directly. Money came on schedule, routed through lawyers, paying for school and braces and summer camp, proof that somewhere a man remembered an obligation even when he had stopped remembering a person. Ren used to tell herself that obligation was a kind of love, wearing a disguise. By the time she was 13, she had stopped telling herself that. Leanne watched her daughter build a careful, quiet kind of armor, and she never tried to take it off her. She only made sure that underneath the armor there was still a girl who could laugh, who still believed in things, who still let herself want a found family, even when her first one had come apart. Leanne filled the apartment with noise on purpose, music while cooking, neighbors invited up for soup, a standing Sunday night ritual of bad movies and good popcorn, because she understood, in the bone-deep way only a parent who has watched a child go quiet can understand, that silence left unfilled becomes its own kind of wound. At 14, during a year when the whole world seemed to stop moving and everyone was suddenly, unbearably alone with their own thoughts, Ren went looking for the truth the way teenagers do, alone, at 2 in the morning, with a laptop balanced on her knees. She read old interviews. She read fan forums where strangers debated her father's choices as though they were characters in a show. She read, for the first time, things that weren't really about her, but that she somehow recognized herself inside of anyway. Descriptions of a man who treated devotion like a performance, who measured love in the size of an audience, who had built a life so entirely public that there was no longer any room left in it for a daughter who only wanted him in private. She didn't cry that night. She closed the laptop, lay back against her pillow, and stared at the ceiling until the sky outside her window turned gray, and somewhere in those quiet hours she made a decision without quite knowing she'd made it. She was done waiting at the door. What nobody tells you about letting go of a parent who is still alive is that it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, undramatic moments that no one else would notice. It happened for Ren the day she stopped flinching when she saw his face on a billboard. It happened the day she realized she could say his name in conversation without her chest tightening. It happened most of all the autumn she turned 17 and was asked for a college application essay to write about a moment that changed her. She wrote about the bakery smell. She wrote about her mother's hands, flour-dusted, steady. She wrote, "I did not grow up with a father. I grew up with the outline of one, the shape he left behind when he stepped out of the frame. For a long time I tried to fill that outline with explanations. Eventually, I understood that some outlines aren't meant to be filled. They're meant to be walked around so you can get to the rest of your life." She didn't name him. She never needed to. The essay wasn't really about him at all in the end. It was about the woman who'd stayed, who'd rebuilt an entire life out of flour and Sunday nights and unwavering, unglamorous presence, and the daughter who had learned, watching her, what real devotion actually looked like. On the morning of her 18th birthday, Wren did not wait for a call. She woke up early, made coffee the way her mother had taught her, and sat at the kitchen table with a single sheet of paper, the legal form for a name change, which she had downloaded weeks earlier and left folded in a drawer, waiting for a day when she felt ready, rather than reactive. She didn't do it in anger. That was important to her. She had spent enough years being angry in the secret, exhausted way of a child who isn't allowed to be angry at someone everyone else admires. This was different. This was quieter. This was a door closing softly instead of being slammed. She kept her first name. Wren had always been hers, chosen by her mother for a small bird that builds intricate nests out of whatever materials it can find and somehow makes them strong enough to last a season. But she let go of the surname that had followed her through hallways and headlines her whole life, and in its place, she took her mother's maiden name, Voss, not as a rejection, she told herself, but as a kind of homecoming. Wren Voss. She said it out loud in the empty kitchen, just to hear how it sounded. It sounded like something she'd built herself. She told her mother that evening, over dinner, half expecting tears. Leanne only reached across the table and held her daughter's hand, and said, "I've been Voss again for 12 years. Welcome to the family business." And they both laughed until it turned into something closer to crying, the good kind, the kind that doesn't need explaining. The paperwork went through that winter. It showed up first in small places, her student ID, her name tag at the bakery, where she'd started working weekends for spending money, the cast list pinned to the corkboard outside the theater, where she was playing a small part in the spring musical. Each time she saw it printed somewhere new, something in her chest loosened a little further, like a knot finally being worked free after years of being pulled tight. She did not give interviews. She did not write an open letter. She did not, despite what a few tabloid sites speculated, ever intend the name change as a public statement at all. It was in the end the most private decision she had ever made about the most public fact of her life, and that, she thought, was exactly the point. By the time Wren started college the following fall, studying textile design at a small art school 2 states away, she had become someone the paparazzi no longer recognized on sight. She rode the bus to class. She burned her first attempt at a screen-printed scarf and laughed about it with her roommate instead of crying. She called her mother every Sunday, not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and there is a particular kind of freedom in wanting the people who show up for you. She still thought about her father sometimes, not with the raw ache of her childhood, but with something quieter, more settled, almost like remembering a character from a book she'd read a long time ago. She heard occasionally secondhand about his films, his stunts, the things that made him famous. She felt, when she heard them, very little at all. Not hatred. Hatred would have meant he still occupied space in her that she needed for other things. What she felt was closer to distance, the clean, deliberate distance of someone who has finally stopped standing at a window, waiting for headlights that were never going to turn into the driveway. In her sophomore year, a professor asked the class to design something that represented an inheritance, not necessarily an object, but a feeling, a pattern, something passed down. Most of her classmates designed quilts patterned after grandmother's gardens, scarves dyed in the colors of a childhood home. Wren designed a simple piece, a length of plain cotton, undyed, that she had cut and re-sewn herself by hand into something new, a jacket, sturdy and a little imperfect at the seams, the kind of thing meant to be worn through weather rather than admired behind glass. She titled it simply Voss. When her professor asked what it represented, Wren thought about it for a long moment before answering. "My mother always told me that you don't get to choose what you're given," she said, "but you get to choose what you make out of it. This is what I made." She did not tell the story behind it. She didn't need to. Some inheritances are private, and some kinds of survival are only ever meant to be witnessed by the people who lived through them. A mother who rebuilt a life out of flour and steady hands, and a daughter who learned, finally, after years of waiting at doors that never opened, how to build one of her own. Few children of celebrities have grown up under as much public scrutiny as Suri Cruise, the daughter of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. Over nearly 2 decades, her life has generated constant tabloid coverage, much of it speculative. This script sticks to what is publicly documented or consistently and credibly reported, and is explicit about which claims fall into which category. Suri Cruise was born on April 18, 2006, in Santa Monica, California, the daughter of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. Her birth received significant media attention, including a high-profile Vanity Fair cover feature. Her parents married in November 2006 in Italy. In June 2012, Katie Holmes filed for divorce from Tom Cruise. The divorce was finalized quickly, within about 2 weeks, which was widely noted at the time as unusually fast for a high-profile case. Under the settlement, Holmes was granted primary physical custody of Suri, and Cruise agreed to pay child support, along with covering medical, dental, insurance, and education costs, reportedly including future college tuition. The exact child support figure has commonly been reported as $400,000 per year, though this specific number comes from media reporting rather than published court documents, since the settlement details were largely sealed. Following the divorce, Holmes relocated with Suri to New York City, where Suri has been primarily raised. It is widely reported, across many outlets over more than a decade, that Tom Cruise has had little to no public relationship with Suri since the 2012 divorce. The last confirmed public sighting of Cruise and Suri together is generally cited as 2013. Multiple entertainment outlets have published anonymous source claims describing the relationship as estranged, including a 2024 quote attributed to an unnamed source claiming Cruise had chosen not to see Suri for years. Other outlets have published competing anonymous source claims. For instance, a 2018 report citing a source who said Cruise sends birthday and holiday gifts annually. None of these specific claims about Cruise's private contact with his daughter have been independently confirmed by either parent. Both Holmes and Cruise have generally declined to discuss the matter publicly in detail. This entire category, the nature, extent, or absence of a relationship between Cruise and Suri, should be treated as reported, not confirmed. Suri attended Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts in Manhattan, a public performing arts school whose alumni include several well-known actors and musicians. While there, she appeared in a school production of an Addams Family-themed musical, reportedly in the role of Morticia. She graduated in June 2024. It has been reported, including by Pittsburgh area media covering the incoming class, that Suri enrolled at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh in fall 2024. Specific details of her course of study have circulated in entertainment media but are not independently verified through university sources, so any claim about her declared major should be treated as reported rather than confirmed. Starting around her June 2024 high school graduation, Suri began using the name Suri Noel in public and semi-public contexts. Her graduation program reportedly listed her this way, as did the program for her school musical, and later, coverage of her university enrollment used Noel rather than Cruise. Noel is Katie Holmes' middle name, and multiple outlets have reported this as a deliberate tribute to her mother. It is important to distinguish reported usage from a confirmed legal change. As of multiple recent reports, including coverage published in 2026, there is no public record or official confirmation that Suri has legally changed her surname through a court process. Neither Suri nor Katie Holmes has issued a public statement confirming a legal name change. What is confirmed is that Suri Noel has been used consistently in school and public settings since mid-2024. Whether this reflects a legal change, a chosen personal or stage name, or simply informal usage remains unconfirmed. Some media comparisons have drawn a parallel to Shiloh Jolie, daughter of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, who did legally petition a California court to drop the surname Pitt after turning 18, a request the court approved in 2024. That case involved confirmed legal documentation. Suri's situation, by contrast, has not been confirmed to involve any court filing, and outlets covering it have generally been careful to frame it as a reported practice rather than a documented legal fact. Holmes and Suri have been photographed together regularly over the years, including at Suri's high school graduation and at various public outings in New York. Holmes has spoken publicly, in limited terms, about her daughter, generally describing her in positive terms without elaborating on private family matters. Holmes has also been photographed with Suri at film and television production sites for Holmes' own projects, suggesting an ongoing close relationship, though the specific nature of their day-to-day life together has not been detailed by either of them in interviews. Many widely circulated stories about Suri Cruise include detailed accounts of her private emotions, specific scenes, such as moments of crying, internet searches she allegedly conducted, or conversations with her mother, and claims about her interior thoughts regarding her father. None of these details have been confirmed by Suri, Holmes, or any documented source. They are dramatized or invented elements common in entertainment content about her, and this script does not include or endorse them. Likewise, the precise reasons behind the use of Suri Noel, beyond the general tribute to her mother explanation, reported across multiple outlets, are not publicly known. The through line that can be stated with confidence is this. Holmes and Cruise divorced in 2012, with Holmes receiving primary custody. Cruise's public involvement in Suri's life has been limited and largely unconfirmed in its specifics. Suri has built her education and early adult life primarily around her mother in New York and now Pittsburgh, and since 2024 she has publicly used the name Suri Noel, though whether that reflects a legal change remains unconfirmed as of the most recent reporting.